Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be unto you. We are in Surah Al-Hajj, the pilgrimage. This is Surah number 22, and the ayah we're at is ayah number 26. Here, ayah number 26, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and behold and remember, as we have appointed and showed Ibrahim the place of the house. This is in reference to the house of worship, which we call the Kaaba. So Allah is telling us the story that He appointed for Ibrahim that place and showed it to him. Ibrahim, as we know, was born in Iraq. Then he moved to Palestine, and in a short trip in Egypt, his wife was about to be taken away by the king, but Allah helped him devise a trick. They left Egypt safe, unlike Joseph, who went to prison in Egypt, and Jesus, who came as a baby, and he ran back to Palestine very quickly. So Egypt is a perilous place for prophets and the believers. It is. It's a pharaonic system. It is the maker of the pharaonic system. And as such, one has to be careful when you want to go to Egypt. You have to calculate your steps, you have to calculate your wording before you speak, and you have to be careful whom you're talking to. So coming back from Egypt to Palestine, Allah wanted to appoint Ibrahim a place where he would lead the believers from there forward. So in Palestine, Ibrahim is living, and he has never been to Arabia, so he doesn't know nothing about the Arabian Peninsula. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the story that He showed him the place of the house, which means the house was there, but the place was not known yet to Ibrahim. Which brings to us another issue about that house, which is Mecca, the Kaaba. That is that the Kaaba was built originally by Adam. What then did Ibrahim do? Allah tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2, that Ibrahim and Ishmael were raising the foundations of the Kaaba, which means the walls of the Kaaba. So by the time Ibrahim went to Mecca, in the Old Testament it's called Bacca, B-A-C-C-A, and when he went there, the Kaaba was not a structure. It was only a place whose walls have fallen over the ages, and it needs to be rebuilt. So what Ibrahim did is that he rebuilt it, he remodeled the Kaaba. The text of the Quran says that he was raising the foundation from the floor level up to having 4 walls and a ceiling for the Kaaba. That's what Ibrahim and his son Ishmael did. Okay? So here, ayah number 26, surah number 22. The word the house is in reference, as we said, to the house of worship, which is the Kaaba and the mosque surrounding it. Okay? This is the first house ever to be built for mankind to worship God. It is a central place in the universe or on the earth, and it is where Muslims direct their faces wherever they may be when they want to make dua and when they want to make prayer. We all try to look at the direction of the Kaaba itself. The ayah goes on to say, we have shown Ibrahim the place of the house, so that you, Ibrahim, never associate anyone with me. Associating people or persons or things with God is the worst sin one could commit. Some people associate stones, we call them idol worshippers. The Arabic word for it is mushrikeen, 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 which means idolaters or pagans or idol worshippers. These three names mean one and the same thing. Some people associated idols with God. Some others idolized other things, like worshiping certain trees, or certain flowers, or the sun, or the moon, or a star, or a set of stars. Some people manufacture idols and statues and worship them. There are people who call themselves Christians and they worship the cross. So, and there are people, like many of us, by the way, which is very alarming, many of us worship themselves. Self worship is the worst sin of all. Because if a person is worshiping an idol, maybe one day he will discover that the idol is not talking, is not helping, is not hurting, he has no power. Then they will say there must be another God. But self worship, which is to follow our whims and desires, instead of following the guidance of Allah, self worship becomes the most sustainable, prevalent type of associating partners with God. What is called in the Islamic terms shirk, 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 to associate anything with Allah. The most prevalent form that even Muslims fall in is the association of themselves with God, in many cases, giving themselves the upper hand and the upper say over the guidance of Allah. This is the most dangerous form of associating partners with God. I hope that this is clear. So Allah tells Ibrahim, associate none with me and cleanse my house for those who are making tawaf, which is to circulate around the building of the Kaaba, and to those standing for prayer, and those who are bowing down, and those who are prostrating. Like the Kaaba, every masjid should be made cleansed, both from associating partners with God. There should be no symbols in a mosque. There should be no designs that distract people. There should be no symbolism. In many masajid today, you find the crescent is used as a symbol over the top of the minarets, the top of the domes of the mosques, as if we are worshipping the crescent. We do not use symbolism in Islam. When we worship Allah directly. We do not worship symbols or pictures or images or statues. We worship Allah directly. But we don't see Him. How do we worship Him? We worship Him the way all the prophets worshipped Him. We stand up, we bow down, we prostrate, and we recite His book and chant His praise throughout the prayer. Which means what? It means that we are submitting to Him and that we have no medium between us and Allah. No one is in the middle. Other religions use saints as mediums. Some Muslims, unfortunately, especially the Sufis, they worship and pray to the dead, seeking their help. Please do this for me. Please give me a baby. I have been married for 5 years. I don't have a baby. Please help my kid pass the exam. All of these prayers are falsely and wrongly directed at dead people who can help themselves with nothing, let alone to help others. So, shirk, SHIRK, or associating partners with God, is the worst sin ever. This is the one sin that Allah says if anyone dies associating partners with God, this will never be forgiven and nothing else would help him. So, a person who worships other than God by associating partners with God, including himself, may do the best of charitable work. He could be the kindest of person to people. He could be the most and nicest person in his neighborhood. But if he is worshiping anyone besides God or anyone other than God, this association of worship with God will never be forgiven. How could it be forgiven? If the person reverses course during his life, repents, and accepts Allah, accepts all the prophets, including Prophet Muhammad, accepting all the books, including the final book, which is the Quran, then his previous association of worship with God would be erased and fully reversed into hasanat, into good works, good deeds.
Spell that, please.
Okay, good deeds.
No, I got that one.
Okay,
I need the hasana.
HASANAT, hasanat. Yes, hasanat are good deeds. Okay. So Allah tells Ibrahim, associate no one with me and cleanse my house for those who are coming to make tawaf around the Kaaba, to circle around the Kaaba, and those who are standing for prayer, and those who are bowing down, and those who are making sujood, which is to prostrate to the floor. Okay? Then, ayah number 27, it says, and call unto people to come and perform pilgrimage. Again, this is Allah talking to Ibrahim. So, Hajj or pilgrimage was established in this command that Allah told Abraham to prepare the Kaaba and the mosque around the Kaaba for people to come and then call on people to come for pilgrimage. What does the word Hajj means? H-A-J. What does it mean? It means
The circling around the Kaaba.
no,
Yes.
this is one of the rites or rituals. But the Hajj is to travel with the intention of reaching a certain place. This is Hajj. This is the general linguistic term.
Okay, so we have a question. So the throwing of the stones and
It's
the
all the
wrapping.
rituals. All of these are rituals. Part of the Hajj. That's what you travel to get there to do. So why are you going for Hajj? To perform the rituals of Hajj. Okay? Some people, their Hajj is for, yeah, it is part of the rituals, what you're saying. Okay?
But explain how the sign for travel ends up into the motion of the circle around the Kaaba. Hey, the sign is split up into two different concepts, I think is the point. And sometimes English or Arabic or whatever other language, their concepts can be wrapped up into one word.
Yes.
So we have to figure out within the sign language
Yes.
what
You have
the
to
best.
extend it into explanation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It is like translating between Arabic and English. If I say, for example, the word you, which is a normal pronoun, It may mean you, the male. It may mean you, the two males. It may mean you, the two females. It may mean you, the four females. It may mean one female, you, the female, one. It may mean you all. So it's one word in English, but in Arabic, every set is different. Every pronoun is different. So
And probably pronunciation too, right?
yes, of
Okay.
course.
I had to leap of faith that one because
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know.
you're right.
But I was thinking this.
So the word you for the person, the individual person who is a male, it is anta, A-N-T-A. For the female, singular, anti, A-N-T-I. You see the difference? But for the two males, it is antuma. For the two females, it's the same, antuma. For the plural, male plural, antum. For the plural for female, antunna. It's an N at the end, antunna.
Yes, it's difficult, yes.
So translation would give you, instead of one word, varieties of options sometimes. The Arabic language, therefore, is the language that has about 650,000 root words. Just root words. Take, for example, the lion has 27 names in Arabic. One animal, 27 names in Arabic. It's a wealth of vocab. And this is one reason I think, and most scholars think, that Allah chose the Arabic because of the wealth of vocabulary in the Arabic language.
Oh,
So in any way, so Allah says to Ibrahim, call unto people for the pilgrimage into Mecca, and they will come to you walking and on every weak animal they can from every far distance. And it is true, people come from every corner of the earth. This is the largest gathering of any human community event in the world that happens on annual basis. It gathers people from every almost single village in the world, not country. When you go to Mecca during the pilgrimage, you find people from as far as Japan, Los Angeles, Moscow, Cape Town, South Africa, all over the place. They are coming. Then it goes on to say, to attend to their own benefits and to remember the name of Allah in numbered days for what He has provided for them of the animals that are called in the Quran Al-An'am, A-L-A-N-A-A-M. Again, An'am, A-N-A-A-M.
In or in?
The last is
In.
M, as in
In.
Muhammad.
Okay, got it.
So what is Al-An'am? Al-An'am is the name of a surah that we went over and we explained this in details. But Al-An'am is a special group of animals that are put together under that title. Okay? These are animals that have been domesticated for humans to use and to slaughter and to eat and to milk. So they are subjected to our use. That's why they are called Al-An'am, which means animals that have been subjected to our use. But these are not any animal that we we have or use domestically, these are not all of them. These are the animals that we are allowed to eat, like lamb, goats, cows, he or she, uh, camels. Okay, so these animals, males or females, are all available for the Muslims to grow, to develop, to take care of, to graze, and to slaughter, and to milk, to use their skin for whatever use they want, to use their bones to make jelly or anything else or gelatin. So they are fully made for this. So you have the camels again, the cows, and the sheeps and the goats. These are four categories of animals. Together, they are called An'am. Anaam. Okay? So, call on people to come for pilgrimage from every far distance. Let them come to witness benefits for themselves. Benefits here is in reference to exchange of things. People, when they used to come for pilgrimage in Mecca, they used to bring with them whatever produce or an'am, if you will, to come and exchange, but only after doing the Hajj or before entering into the Hajj rituals.
Thank you. I was a little confused for that one.
Huh?
Well, because of the explanation before. You had said for Hajj, and I'm like, well, if they already arrived, how are they still on Hajj?
Yeah, because
But it's before the rituals
yes,
start.
it's
Okay.
before the ritual.
It clarifies it for me in my brain.
No, it is after. They do the business after. Yes. Okay. And for also to remember and mention the name of Allah, to praise Allah during these numbered days for what He has provided them of these an'am, as we mentioned. So here it says, so eat from them and feed the poor who are on the verge of breaking down, or the desperate poor, or the very, very, very poor. Then it says, let them then do their rituals and fulfill their promises or pledges, and to circulate around the oldest house. The word in Arabic, which you don't need to know anyway because you will not remember it, but the word says very old house. Let them revolve around or circulate around the oldest house. Why is it called the very old house? It is because it is the first house of worship that Adam built, as we mentioned before. Ayah number 30, this, and he who glorifies the rules of Allah or the boundaries of Allah, it is better for him with his Lord. Meaning that you have to offer protection, because during those days, people are going for the rituals of Hajj, right? So they are revolving around the Kaaba, and they are going for haste walk between two little mounts, one of them called Safa, Alsafa, Al Safa,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that
Alsafa, and the other one Al Marwa, Marwa, Al Marwa. Okay. So these twins, they walk, haste walk between them. So as you are doing this, You could not imagine that everybody is holding onto his cow and doing that. So what do? They mark their animals with things that they know to identify them as their sacrifices. They mark it as a sacrifice. And there was a general rule that anyone in Mecca who sees a marked animal as a sacrifice, you should not touch it, you should not hurt it, you should not do anything. Except if you want, you can feed it. But you cannot do anything with it. You cannot slaughter it definitely. Why? Because it's a property for someone that is left as a trust in the open for the public to protect it. So after certain rituals are done, then comes time that a person is required to sacrifice that animal that they brought with them. What about those who don't bring their animals with them to the Hajj? They purchase from the people of Mecca animals and they sacrifice it. Okay? So here Allah saying, he who respects the marked animals, here they are referred to as the prohibited or protected or animals in the sanctuary of Allah. It's called Hurumatillah, which means
go back and spell that for me. Come on. You can't just jump.
so Hurumat is Hurumat. 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 Okay. Which means the sanctuary, the sanctioned animals, animals that are left in the open as a sanctuary for every one of them, and they are marked as sacrifice. Okay, so to glorify Allah, to glorify His order, to protect these animals is good for everybody, the ayah says. And then goes on to say, and An'am have been made lawful for you, except what has been recited unto you. So avoid the impurities of the idols and avoid false speech and false lies. Be upright to Allah and avoid associating anyone or anything with Him. Because anyone who associates anything or anyone with Allah is like somebody who has been thrown from the heaven. And the birds who are flying, they snatch it or him into pieces, or else the wind. You see the imaging here? The imaging is, if anyone associates any partner with Allah, it is like somebody who has been thrown from high in the sky, so that birds will snatch his body, or else the wind will take him and throw him down all the way into a deep steep or a deep valley. Ayah number 32. This, and he who glorifies the rituals of Allah, it is part of the piety of the hearts. What does this mean? It means that when I know that something is prohibited by Allah, I should feel the awe of getting close to violate it, not just of the violation. I should avoid violation from a distance. This is glorification. It is like, for example, and this example is not for comparison, it is only for illustration. It is like, for example, If your son tries to touch a hot stove and then, no, 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 don't touch it, then he looks at you and he goes away. And then, as you are distracted by anything, he starts to go back and you see him and you tell him, what? You're getting close again. I told you no. So if your child respects your word, he would not get close to the stove again, especially when it's hot. And even when it's cold, he would ask, can I touch it now? Out of being inquisitive creature, children want to know and try everything. Likewise, adult humans trample over things because they want to discover, they want to exchange or inquire about things. So what happens is, if I know that something is ominous, is bad, is dangerous in the eyes of Allah, I steer myself away from it. This is glorifying the prohibitions and the boundaries set by Allah, which the ayah here says, it is a sign that these hearts are righteous. So you know that somebody is righteous because he does not extend a look for a female with lust, or she does not do the same towards a male. You do not, kind of like break into people's homes to discover when they are vulnerably exposed. You don't do that. That's a sign of righteousness, that you lower your gaze, you do not peek into people's private life, that you do not inquire into people's private life, because it's a boundary that is set by Allah. Then going back to talk about the Hajj and the animals that people accompany with them and sacrifice there, it says, you have benefits therein up to a term that is preset. And then the destination of it is to be left for that very old house, meaning for the people. So when we sacrifice the animals in Mecca, we leave some of it. You could eat some of it, but then you leave the rest of it for the poor people in Mecca. Mecca then was not a large city as it is today. It was basically the house of Allah and very few tents that people lived in. Then it's an open desert between two large desert mountains. That's it. So you leave the part of the animal that you do not consume for the poor people around this very old house. Then ayah number 34, it says, and for every community we have made rituals so that they remember the name of Allah for whatever He has provided them of what? Al-An'am again. So your Lord is one God. Your God is one God. And to Him you must submit. And give glad tidings for those who are doing good.
Tidings meaning
Uh,
things? No.
Good news.
That's what I thought. That's where that
Yes.
I was like,
Good news. So give the good news to those who are in humility and awe of God and fear of His displeasure. And number 35 describes that group. It says, those who When and if the name of Allah is mentioned, their hearts will tremble. And those who are patient in the face of adversities, and those who establish prayers and spend from what we have provided them. You see the description of those whose hearts are full of the fear of God and full of humility and awe of God. They are described as people who, when the name of Allah is mentioned, their hearts will tremble out of fear. And those who are patient in the face of adversities. And those who establish prayer and spend from whatever we have provided them. And the camels, and number 36, we have made for you as part of the rituals of Allah. You have a lot of good in them. So mention the name of Allah on it, which means before you sacrifice. And then when it's laid down on its side, and after you slaughter, then eat from it and provide food for those who are around and those who are desperately in need of food. Just a second, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that it's accurate. So these are not only camels, it's camels, oxen, or cows that are brought into the Mecca area. These are symbols that are shown to you by Allah. There is much good for you in them. So mention the name of Allah over them when they are drawn up in lines for sacrifice. Then when they are down on their sides after slaughter, eat thereof and feed the beggar who doesn't ask and the beggar who asks. Okay. This is how we subjected those for you. You see, those huge animals could not have been led by us if they were meant to be wild. Could you wrap a rope around the neck of a lion and pull him to where you want? You can't. Could you do this with a tiger? You can't. Because they are wild. In a second, they can jump on you and kill you. And you don't know, they are unpredictable. But a much larger animal, like a cow, right? Allah has made it part of its nature to be led by humans, even to the point of slaughter. A huge camel could be led by a rope, and that rope could be held in the hands of a child. I am told by zoologists that the people who study animal biology that the camel's eye has a lens that sees something small as a huge. So they look at the child and they see a huge person. That's why they got. And Allah made it in their heart to be obedient and to be submissive to the will of man. This is domestication. This is not domestication, I'm sorry. This is subjugation by Allah. They are subjected to your will. This is what the ayah here is saying. The ayah is saying, this is how Allah subjected them to you. so that you may be grateful. Imagine if all animals are wild. Which animals would you have taken for food? In terms of sacrifice, ayah number 37, it says, their meats or blood do not reach God. You are the one who benefit from those. You can use them anyway. But for Allah, only your righteousness reaches Him. This is how He subjected them for you, so that you glorify Allah for the guidance He has provided you, and give the good news to those who are doing well. We have 7 minutes. We can take some questions if you have. If you don't, we can start the next section.
No,
No questions?
no questions.
Okay. So ayah number 38 moves to another subject, but it's not going to steer away completely. So it says, Allah definitely defends those who believed. Allah does not like anyone who is treasonous and in denial of God, or in denial of the goodness of others. So what is the relevance here of this? Here Allah saying, Allah defends the believers. Coming to Hajj from far distances, you go through a lot of land that you are not familiar with. Valleys, desert, mountains, whatever geography you face. Some places have wild animals, some places have different weather styles and stuff. Some places you find highway robbers. They can just rob you or kill you and take your money. But here the context is not really about Hajj. The context is about Muslims at that time fearing what happens to them if they follow the Prophet ﷺ. And they spoke about this. They said, if we follow you, O Muhammad, we will be snatched by others, right and left. So Allah is giving them the comfort of His security, saying that He defends the believers. If you have Allah for a defense, what should you fear? You should fear nothing. What should you be worried about? Nothing. So if Allah is with you and He is telling you clearly, I defend you. If you are a believer, I defend you. Then it is meant to take the fear out of the hearts of Muslims. And it should set the fear in the hearts of those who are treasonous and betray their trust or deny Allah or deny the goodness of other people. The following ayah is the first permission that would be given to the Muslims to fight back against 13 long years of persecution by idol worshippers. As we know from the history of the Prophet, he lived in Mecca preaching and teaching peacefully for 13 years. During those 13 years, the idol worshippers who hated the Prophet, hated Islam and Muslims, they were persecuting the weak, the poor, the slave, the underprivileged, women, everybody who believes or follows the Prophet, peace be upon him. They would persecute in any way possible to the point of killing. They killed so many of the Muslims. And the Muslims were very few. Mind you, after 3 years of preaching, only 63 people accepted Islam and followed the Prophet. So you could imagine 63 people in the middle of thousands in the community is very minute number. Very minute. It's easy to prosecute. And that's why some Muslims who have some means, they migrated from Mecca to Abyssinia, currently called Ethiopia and Eritrea. That area was one country. It used to be called Abyssinia. It was ruled by a kind Christian king who welcomed the Muslim migrants into his kingdom and gave them protection. So Muslims in Mecca, they used to try to find any place to go anywhere, and it was very expensive to do this. So only those who have the means would do it. So there were two migrations to Abyssinia, and then came the permission for the Muslims in Mecca. The permission came from Allah to migrate to Medina after the Medina community accepted Islam. And this is where the Prophet himself migrated from Mecca to Medina by the end of those 13 very difficult years. But even leaving the whole Mecca for the idol worshippers was not enough. So the idol worshippers who stole their money when they were migrating, and in some cases they snatched their children from their own parents' hands. Very difficult time. Those people who were merchants and wealthy, they used to go to Palestine and Syria in the north to do business, and then come to parade their wealth and to show Muslims their power, and that we can walk right next to you and you can do nothing to us. So the purpose was intimidation for Muslims, that if we want to destroy you, we can destroy you at any minute. So by doing this for years, then the second year they did the same thing. Allah sent down verse number 39 in this surah, Surah 22, where He says, now permission has been given to those who have been killed, that they have been wronged. And Allah is capable to give them victory. Those who have been kicked out of their own homeland without any right, without any justice, for no sin on their part, except that they say, our Lord is Allah. And had it not been for Allah pushing people against each other or by each other, then many businesses, many silos, many markets, many prayers, many masajid or mosques in which Allah's name is being mentioned would have been destroyed. And Allah will give victory and support to whom He wills, but specifically to those who support His cause. Those who stand for their faith, Allah will give them victory. Allah is mighty and exalted. Nobody could force Him to do what He wouldn't want to do. You cannot twist God's arm. I think we'll stop here because my time is over. And inshallah, we will start next time from ayah number 41. So 22:41.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. So this class is not
No
gonna,
class next week, it's canceled.
yes, but there may be other activities, so you check with your leadership. Okay? Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
كان
أهلا وسهلا، مين معايا؟